Okay, so lo Yachpor, beginning second paragraph in BavaBatra. So lo Yachpor is don't dig. Don't dig. You shouldn't dig a bore. Samach leboiro shel chavero. So don't dig a bore close to your friend. So Rashi here in Ela Imkain mipnei shehacharifa hasmucha labor mitchalas kotle habor umerafe ota. So Rashi here is saying what's the problem here is that you're mazik to the bore, that when you dig the bore, then you are mazik the kotle habor of your friend. So when you're digging, the digging is causing the mazik, because as you dig, you're weakening the bore. It says Tosfos, lo yachfor kol hani ayri to isbahu maya. So Rashi doesn't mention anything about water. Tosfos is saying that there's a hezek when there's water. How does he know? V'tama mishum matunta. So matunta, it comes up in the Gemara later. Matunta is moisture, is lach, whatever way you want to explain it. The wetness comes and it does damage. So the Mishnah says that you marchikin shalosh tefachim. So when you take away three tefachim, v'sod besid. So this Gemara is going to ask: is it v'sod besid or is it or sod besid? So once you're 3 tefachim away, the water that's going through the ground, more than 3 tefachim isn't such a big deal. Can I read a book Gemara? So later on it's going to say that this is the reason of the hezek. The tema says the re, this is a big tema. The ha, I'm reading a book Gemara called Mara Deka Machisa. So Rashi's getting this, that the digging is creating the problem, because the Gemara says that every time that you dig is causing an issue. So since the Gemara says that the mazik is coming from the digging, so therefore why here the Tosfos here is saying that it's the water? So no, because it's clearly from the digging. So why does it say the Gemara the digging and it says the moisture? Now I think the Ramban and the Ran say that it's both of them. Either there's mazik from the digging and there's mazik from the water. But Tosfos is saying it's only the water. So Omer reads, lo kamar ela me oitoi sha matchil hahezek. So the Re is saying that from the time when you start digging, that's when the hezek starts. The kevin de betchila hezek have a giri delay moide Rebbi Yosi. Now, what the hell is Tosfos going on here about? Since it's going now, then that's the beginning of the hezek, and that's giri delay. Giri delay is his arrows, and therefore moide Rebbi Yosi. Like what's the Rebbi Yosi? If you look in the Mishnah, there's no Rebbi Yosi here. So what's Tosfos going on about moide Rebbi Yosi? So the end of the Tosfos is just saying that if you inherit some type of boar, you buy a boar and it's there. So or if you are so there, you can't fill it with water. But if you are going to dig a bore and you're just going to store dry produce there, so therefore there's no point. There's no problem in digging the bore. Now this whole thing, we're going to come back to this Tosfos when we come back to the beginning here. But this whole section of Tosfos doesn't really make any sense right now. And why did Rebbi Yosi? Now, if we have a look at the Mishnah now here on, this is Chav Hey Amud Beis, which is at the end of Lo Yachpor. Marchichen is a ilan min a bor esrim v'chamesh ama. So you distance the tree from the bor 25 amos. So 25 amos is a lot further than 3 tefachim. U'b'choyev u'b'shekma chamishim ama. So we have these other 2 trees. You need 50 amos. Bein me'lamala, bein me'netzad. So now here the Gemara says Ben shehabur lamata ben ve'ilan lamala ben shehabur lamala ve'ilan lamata. So here Tosfos learns that the ilan here, because you could learn that it's only the choyer v'shikman is chamishim ama ben milamala ben minatzad. It's that the ben milamala is going on all trees, not just the chorav and the sikma, which we'll see the Tosfos later. That's in the Mishnah. Ima bor kadma koitzis v'noitin damim. Now this here is a bit of a pella. That the bor was there first. So then the tree is causing the mazik, and therefore you have to cut them. You have to cut the tree, but you give the money to the mazik. The guy has a tree. he came after your bore. You had a bore, then he planted the tree and it's mazik you. You cut down the tree, but you have to pay the mazik the money for his tree. You have to see what that's about. If the tree came first, you don't cut it. Suffolk, who came first, don't cut. Rebbi Yosi Omer Afo Pisha Bor Kodemes Li'ilan Lo Yikuts. Now this is our Rebbi Yosi. Rebbi Yosi says even though the boar came first to the tree, you don't cut the tree. So each one, so we basically, when you're in your reshus, you can do whatever you want in your reshus. So Rebbi Yosi Omer Afo Pisha Bor Kodemes Li'ilan Lo Yikut Shezeh Chofer Bo V'Shelvo Amar Rebbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel Halacha Rebbi Yosi. So here we have the halacha is like Rebbi Yosi. So Rebbi Yosi is shita of Rebbi Yosi is that it's al hanizak laharchik et atzmo. Look at this Rashi halacha Rebbi Yosi. So what's the halacha? Al hanizak laharchik et atzmo. So according to the Rabbanan, it's on the mazik to marchik et atzmo. According to Rebbi Yosi, it's on the nizak to marchik et atzmo. So it says the Gemara that the halach is like Rebbi Yosi. So, firstly, the question is, what's more misdaver? That the mazik should be marchik himself, or the nizak should be marchik himself? And seemingly, I would say in the first thing that the mazik should be marchik. So why is halacha like Rebbi Yosi? What do you mean? The nizak has to be marchik at atzmo. It's a big chiddush. If I'm doing damage to you, so stop damaging me. No, says Rebbi Yosi. If you don't want to be damaged, so leave. Now here it comes on and says, Amar Ravashi ki having be Rav Kahana havi amrin. Whereas by Rav Kahana would say, Moidi Rebbi Yosi be giri didei. So Rebbi Yosi would agree with giri delay. What's giri delay? Giri delay is it basically means his arrow. Now we are going to have a maklokas as to what is giri delay. If we have a look here on chof base, I'm a base. The Mishnah marchikin et sula min shoivach. We distance the ladder from the dovecote. Or ba'amos kadesh lo tachpot hanamiyah. Because if you put so you have like a dovecote in the other guy's chotzer, and you have the sulam, the ladder, on the wall, so then the weasel or whoever's going to eat the doves is going to go up your ladder and jump into his shoivach. So therefore you have to have it 4 amos away so that you don't cause this to happen. And you have to leave your wall away from his machzela, is his roof gutter that's bringing away, so that he needs access. He needs access for his sulam. For you need daladamas kadeshi yizokef as a sulam, in order that he can put his ladder up there. So he has access to his roof gutter. So that's all fair enough. But here the Gemara again, we're in here chof beis and a base. We're 5 daf from Yud Zayin lo Yachpor lema manisim to loka Rebbi Yosi. Are we saying that this Mishnah is not like Rebbi Yosi? Because if it was Rebbi Yosi, he would say zeh chofer b'tok shelo, but zeh noite b'tok shelo. So here we're saying that this Mishnah is not like Rebbi Yosi, which would be mashma that all the other Mishnahs are like Rebbi Yosi. Why here we say Lema Manisa to look Rebbi Yosi, and the Mishnah doesn't say that in Yud Daled. And really Tosfos is asking that question here. What about Rebbi Yosi? Does Rebbi Yosi agree here? So Tosfos comes out in this Tosfos, he's saying Moide Rebbi Yosi, everything's good. Rebbi Yosi is in our Mishnah. This Mishnah is going like Rebbi Yosi. So the Gemara answers, Afilu Tema Rebbi Yosi, Ha Amar Ravashi, Ki Honim Be Rev Kahana, Havi Amar Modi Rebbi Yosi Begiri Didei. So here we see that the Gemara is saying that this Mishnah goes like Rebbi Yosi, because it's Giri Delay. So the Mishnah, here in the Rashi, so Lema Manisan to look at Rebbi Yosi. The palik b'seifa b'parkinan. So Rabbi Yosi, according to Rashi, Rabbi Yosi argues at the end of the parak, b'noite ilan samach labor. V'toive mili ike b'matnisan devatai lav ke Rabbi Yosi. So says Rashi, all the Mishnahs, they don't go like Rabbi Yosi. So though Yachpor is not like Rabbi Yosi, because Rabbi Yosi says that it's ala nizak laharcha kadatzmo. So therefore, you can't say in our lo Yachpor is don't dig a bor samach labor shel chavero. Why not? Because you're doing damage. Rabbi Yosi says you can. That's how Rashi is learning this Mishnah. This first Mishnah, lo Yachpor, is that it's Rabbi Yosi. It's all nizak laharka gadatzmo. Eilelema afzu. So now we're saying in this Mishnah afzu the sulam v'shayvach to look Rabbi Yosi. Are we also saying that this Mishnah is also not like Rebbi Yosi? And we say, so here the Gemara says it is like Rebbi Yosi. So therefore every other Mishnah is not like Rebbi Yosi. That's Shitas Rashi. This Mishnah on Chof Beis, Beis Gemara says is like Rebbi Yosi. And then we have his Shita. Again, it's not that the Mishnah is like Rebbi Yosi on Chof Chei. So we see that Rebbi Yosi argues on the Chacham and Chof Chei. And therefore every other Mishnah in our parak has nothing to do with Rebbi Yosi. And therefore the first Mishnah here in Lo Yachpor, this Mishnah is not like Rebbi Yosi. Toisvus. Leima tanan stamal deloka Rebbi Yosi. Perish rach midukamar haka tefei leima deloka Rebbi Yosi. Velokamar mishnayis delayel. So since we never said in the other Mishnahs, this Mishnah is not like Rebbi Yosi, we only said in this Mishnah looks like it's not like Rebbi Yosi. But only here, so therefore every other Mishnah doesn't look like it's Rebbi Yosi either, we never said it. So Tosfos says that this lo Yachpor and every other Mishnah in our parak goes like Rebbi Yosi. So therefore, that's Tosfos here saying that Moed Rebbi Yosi in our Mishnah. Still doesn't make any sense what he's saying there, but we'll get back to that later. But Tosfos, so we have a maklokas in the first Mishnah. Tosfos says lo Yachpor is Rebbi Yosi. Rashi says lo Yachpor is not Rebbi Yosi. So Tosfos is holding here. So all the Mishnahs are going like Rebbi Yosi, and Rashi's holding that it's not. Now, here Rashi now says, "Begiri delay, bechetzim habayim lo miyad gufu shel bal habayis mamish." So how does Rashi define giri delay? In which case that you'll be chayiv. He says that the chitzim. So giri are chitzim are arrows. So if you shoot an arrow, so that's Adam Amazik. It's like you're shooting a gun. It's not bor or aish. It's Adam Amazik. So chitzim aban lo miyad gufo shel bal. It has to come from the bal himself. The person is sending it. So if I plant a tree, and then the roots are not from the bal. So if we go into the first Mishnah, so the bor, when I dig the bor, Rashi says the problem of the bor, digging the bor weakens the eretz. But that's not coming. The bal isn't weakening the eretz. It's like a groma. So therefore, it's not going like Rebbi Yosi. So this whole Mishnah is not according to halacha, says Rashi. Yes, it is, says Tosfos. So v'havikula giri delay. So here we go. Tosfos says v'havikula giri delay. So what is giri delay? Tosfos is going to have a different definition of giri delay than Rashi, because Rashi says that it comes from the Baal Hamazik. It's like Adam Hamazik. De mahahi shaisa mishkachas chazeka. From that moment that you've done the act, that's when the hezek begins. That's very different to Rashi. You're saying that to come from the guf, mamish. Rashi says mamish. He doesn't say mamish so much. He's emphasizing something here. Gufo shel Baal, from the hand of the Baal. The Baal's doing it, mamish. The Baal himself is doing the hezek. Tosfos is saying the mahahi shaisa mishkachas chazeka, that the hezek has to start immediately. Once the hezek starts immediately, so then that's giri delay. So if the hezek, now if I plant a tree, the roots that will destroy you, that will do damage to you, they don't exist yet. The roots don't exist. Since the roots don't exist, so therefore it's not It's not from the Ma'az Shaitim Mishkar Chazek. It's not true. You plant the tree, there's no chezek. Comes the roots after how many years, and then will cause the damage. If we have a look at Lo Yachpor, Adam Por. So the water. So again, Toysa says that it's the water that's causing the damage. So that water is damaging. As soon as you put the water in, it's damaging. You may not see the damage immediately, but water damage, like Rebbi Akiva says, he can see the drip, drip, drip of the water. It takes 40 years for the water to destroy the rock, but it started immediately. Immediately as the water started, it's already having its effect on the rock. So it's damaging immediately, even if you don't see the damage for a long time. It's like a very slow arrow. So you're having that arrow, and so therefore Toysis will have to learn Giri delay in all these Mishnahs. And once you learn Giri delay, you have a different definition of Giri delay to Rashi. Then you have to put Giri delay in all the Mishnahs, and then it's good. Rashi says it's not Giri delay, and his definition of Giri delay fits that as well, that the Mishnahs aren't Giri delay. So v'lo pligi Rebbi Yosi Eila be'ila. So the only case, so Toysis here says first, Rebbi Yosi agrees every mission in our parak is going like Rebbi Yosi. So again, the whole parak you do, it's a very strange kind of setup here. Every Mishnah we do, you got to see is the Rabban and Rebbi Yosi, how does it fit the Maklokas? But you don't even know there is a Maklokas until the end. But yet the specter of Rebbi Yosi is hanging over every Mishnah. And then it's definitely strange because Tosfos says that Rebbi Yosi agrees on everything, so he doesn't have anything to say, so it's not so bad. But according to Rashi, he's just disagreeing with everything, and he disagrees also at the end, and then we reveal the end that halacha is like Rebbi Yosi. It's a lot more of a difficult shita. But Sharach Lomar Lefi, the Matnisan Delayel have a Nami Giri delay, the Miyad Kashasoymach Hakoitel Monea Hadavsha. So the Davsha is when you're stomping on the ground, basically where you have a is the problem here that you see the end of this Gemara Mishum Davsha. That's the end of the previous Gemara. So basically, when you're putting, you want people to walk on your ground because people walking on the ground will compact the ground, and it'll be good for the ground. So when you stop people accessing areas of the karka, then they're not going to walk on it. They're not going to compact it, and therefore it's not good for the karka. So your moneya hadavsha is the hezek. The davsha is people walking on it, putting the koitel. When you put the koitel too close, you're preventing the davsha. So therefore, you have to say. So therefore, we're saying that here it's not. Will we say? So the way the Toysis is learning this lema, will we say this mission like Rebbi Yosi, because he says that it's al nizak to put. So here it's not giri delay. Says Toysis because it doesn't happen miyad. We say no, it does happen miyad, because lefite matnisin la'ayil have a nami giri delay. He's nami giri delay. So the previous Mishnah, he's the question on the previous Mishnah that it's not giri delay. So that this weasel. So Rashi actually says here that you're the ba'od she'oiches besulam kafza. So while you're holding the ladder, the weasel jumps into the shoivach. So that's called giri delay, where I was thinking it's not giri delay. So this Mishnah I wouldn't think is giri delay. And the previous Mishnah you can see over there, but that's the problem if is davsha. It says that miyad, the miyad, it's immediately davsha. So here we see that there's again just to start off with Lo Yachpor. Already Toysis is jumping in with stuff with this Rebbi Yosi. Toysis says Moida Rebbi Yosi because Toysis holds that every Mishnah Rebbi Yosi agrees to. You won't see Rebbi Yosi here in Rashi because Rashi holds that Rebbi Yosi has got nothing to do with this Mishnah. This Mishnah is not like Rebbi Yosi at all, and is not brought. So in order to even start and understand this thing, we have to understand the Maklokas. It's Maklokas Yishonim is what's going on between Rebbi Yosi and the Chachamim. What is that Maklokas? We need a definition of giri delay. We have a definition of Tosfos and Rashi. You have to see how that goes, and we have to get an understanding of the Maklokas. What exactly is Rebbi Yosi and the Chachamim are arguing about? Because I would say the Pashtus, the Chachamim, that it should be on the mazik laharkik at asmo and not the nizak. That's my first knee-jerk reaction. So Nasivis and Mishpat here in Kufnon Hay is where the in Choshen Mishpat is where it has all the Dinish Skenim, basically everything's in Kufnon Hay. So a bit of peace here by them says Mishpat. Vi kan Sark Loimer the Dalet Avos Nazikin. We have he's comparing here like you're chayiv to shomer your shore, but you're not chayiv to shomer your elan. So it's possible that they can mazik somebody in your rishus. I think rishus means that like in your you're taking care of them. But if you do a shemira on them, then those things will not have a hezek. So if you're showing your fire, if you're showing your shore, you can do shemira and all these things on your bore. You don't have to dig a bore. Da'az rachmana chayiva b'shemira. So therefore, since you can do shemira on these things, the Torah was machayiv you shemira, and therefore if you don't do the shemira properly, you're chayiv. V'kolo shamru chayivim b'tashlomim aval hani dechashiv b'perek lo Yachpor. So this is everything, basically saying everything in lo Yachpor. Now can that really have to go in according to Rebbi Yosi, because the halacha is like Rebbi Yosi. But again, everyone except for Rashi says all the mishas are going like Rebbi Yosi. Hupa oifen de kasha yitchayev l'shalem hachezik ein efshirus l'lasot tashmish ze berushuto klal. So if the chachamim were to machayev you, because basically everything's going on in lo Yachpor is that you have a din of harchaka, you don't have a din of tashlumim. In Pashtus, even b'di'evet, if you don't do the harchaka, you don't pay. You have a chiyuv to do tashlum if you don't do harchaka. If you don't do the harchaka, you don't have to pay. But it's because it's all groma. But you've no way if you are chayiv to pay for this stuff. So therefore, that you can actually get rishus in your domain. V'yitbatel tashmish ze mirushuso keven de'efshar klal b'yasiya ub'shmira, and therefore through that you will not be able to be tashmish in your rishus whatsoever. Ubebitel rishus lo chayiv rachmana, and the Torah never machayived you to mevatel the rishus in which you're in. Now this completely flips everything on its head. So for example, if you're sitting in your garden and you're having a dinner party, a Friday night, let's say, and your neighbor says to you, I don't want to hear you, or I'm sitting out in my garden, I don't want to hear you making any noise. So can you please don't talk at your dinner table? Now, before all this, we would have said that the Chachamim would have said, Ala mazik laharka kedatzmo, that you're the mazik, you're not allowed to talk in your garden. And then comes Rebbi Yosi, says, no, there needs to get a harka. You want to sit in your garden in quiet or whatever, just go in your house, whatever it is. You can't. You go find a park, go to the forest, go somewhere where there's no people and go enjoy yourself. That's Rebbi Yosi. Now, there it would seem to be, I can go into my garden and I can get a certain level of tashmish in my garden. I can have, I can have a normal meal at a normal hour. Whatever normal tashmish of your rishus is, I should be able to do that, even if it bothers you. If I put my light on in my kitchen and it's bothering you because my light's on, so I should be allowed to have my light on. So here we have like a geder of what Rebbi Yosi is saying. Rebbi is not saying, it's not a blanket. It's that you should be able to use your rishus even if it's bothering your neighbor, as long as you're the rishus, so as long as your usage is normal usage, all normal usage, therefore is mutter, and if it's bothering you, so therefore it's al hanizak, it's al hanizak laharkaket atzmo. But the mazik is not. He's doing normal tashmish. And even though, Taki, you're saying it's mazik, it's dinei shchenim, it's the laws of neighbors, and it's bothering you. But since if you stop him doing this, he won't be able to use his tashmish of his rishus. He can't use his rishus like Bechlal, or for this thing. Therefore, the Torah was not machayev him to not use it. So that completely flips now what Rebbi Yosi is saying. And further than that, so therefore Rebbi Yosi would be saying that if you are using your tashmish, if you're using your thing in a non-normal way, then Rabbi Yosi would not say ala nizak laharchik atzmo ela ala mazik laharchik atzmo. So here's the haigos my monus. So od amar the ritzba the lav lechol mili amar Rabbi Yosi ala nizak laharchik atzmo. So again, this is going like we just explained in the Sa'if Mishpat. So not everything Rabbi Yosi says ala nizak. Ela shehen eker yishuv or dira or tashmish she'ein lo lemazik lahaniach yishuv or dira or tashmisho midatani tosefta. So that the nizak can't prevent the mazik from using his tashmish in a normal way. So once it's a non-normal way, so then he can prevent you from doing that. That's all in Rabbi Yosi. Then here in the Arukh Shulchan, again, the Hena Emes, the Torah Chayva, Kashemamona Chezik. So when your mammon is mazik, so you're chayiv, you're chayiv to pay. Kamo shehezik begufo, and then that's the difference. She'ef shor l'shomer. That's everything that it's possible for you to do the shmira on. So you're able to shomer your short. But again, how do you shomer your tree? You can't shomer your tree, the roots of your tree. You can't do shmira on it. What you have to do? Not plant trees in your rishus. The Torah is never machayiv you not to plant trees. Shelo yezek kamo hashor became a bore. So the bore, what's the shmir of the bore? Who forced you to dig a bore? But all that is in the sivzeh. Again, this is in Kuf Nun Hey. The tashmishim she'adam, they need them, and the chachamim were not machayivim ele harchaka. Okay, so the chachamim were only machayivim to do a harchaka. Listen, you're doing something. Keep doing it, but don't do it right in his window, right? You're standing outside his window shining torches in his face. Like, yeah, well, don't do that. Shine torches, go away and start shining torches. So again, here it was saying that when you're chayev to pay, when you're mazik, there's no svara at all. To prevent himself from his tashmish and from his malacha. Now there he brings it down in the, that's the Nesivas HaMishpat. So basically, in Sifas HaMishpat is Peshat in Rebbi Yosi, as brought down in all the poiskim, in the Arukh HaShulchan, who's the Achron, who's down in Sifas HaMishpat. What does it mean that al hanizak laharchik atzmo? It's where if you stop the mazik loses rishus of his area of his he uses the ability to do his tashmish in his house. And then the corollary to that obviously is when it's giri delay, when it's your arrows mamish. So then Rabbi Yosi, even there, the nizik is not allowed to use his tashmish where he's using his arrows. So back in the Mishnah in Chof Hey, Marhikan is the Elam in a bor 25 amos, and the Chayr in the Shikma 50 amos. Bain milamala, bain minatzad. What does minatzad mean? Now the Gemara says Tana bain shehabor lamata, whether the bor is lower than the tree, so therefore the tree's roots will be going like above the bor or down enough into the bor. Ve'ilan lamala, ben shehabor lamala, the bor is higher up. Ve'ilan lamata, and the tree is lower down. So if the tree is lower down, so therefore the roots are going to go. They could be going under the bor, not even to the bor at all. The ilan is lower than the bor, therefore the roots go down, and therefore it's only under the carcass. So you're even there, you have to be marchik. Seemingly, you would think not. Bishlema bor lamata ve'ilan lamala kaza shorsha mazkile. So it's fine if the bor is lower down than the tree, so the tree's roots will mazik the bor. Ela bor lamala ve'ilan lamata amai. Why do you have to do the harchaka? Amar Rebbi Chaga b'shem Rebbi Yosi mipnei shemachlidin es karka umalakin karta shel bor. So Rashi machlidin, so loshen chalada. Chalada is like rust. The hilchos shchita. So the chalada is rust in like Hebrew, but in hilchos shchita that you have to go from the front of the simanim. And there's a chalada in shchita where you go under the simanim and cut them from behind. So shehamlacha mitachas lekarka habor. So it goes under the karka of the bor. So there's like a damage it does from the bottom up, rather than attacking it on the side. So that's the chiddush that even there that there's a weakening of the bor, if the roots of the tree go under. So Tosfos It's strict la suye hach afal gab de b'matnisa namitanim ben milamala ben milamat. Now that's not our girsa. We have ben milamala ben minitzad. It's not below. B'kom to e mimatnisan have a mina da achore v'shikmalkai to alakai, which I've said earlier, kamash malan. So he's saying here that since the Mishnah says so all the trees are 25. These two trees are 50 amas. Bein milamala, bein minatzad. That's only going on. Well, in Tosis Kirsak, bein milamala, bein milamata. That's only going on. Chor v'shikma of chamishamama, but or every other tree is okay. Kamash malan the Gemara. Kamash malan brisa b'cholilan. Now here we have the Haggah. The Sefarim to lo garsin about misan bein milamata ati shapir. So that's us. So that's our girsa. Even though it says ben etzad. That's what he's saying. To eat from the Mishnah, have a bein milamala ilan kai velo abor misham de lo tikshi ele bor milamala ve'ila milamata amai kadebercha abraisa. So basically, he's saying that I would think that yes, it would only be above. I wouldn't know this chiddush of going under. So then, Rebbi Yosi Yomer Afal Pisha Bor Kodemes Lo Yikot Shezeh Choyfer Betok Shezeh Shezeh Choyfer Betok Shelo. So not to dominate if we do this Rashi the Kaven de Berushus Nata She'ena Mazik ad Zman Godol Lo Chayiv Uchachamim Lo Kotz Below Damim B'Shvil HaChezek to Yachid, which would mean that a Hezek to Rabbim you do have to pay. So Rashi here is saying why the Nois and Damim in the Mishnah, which we had. The Im Habor Kadma, the boar came first, and you cut the tree and you give money to the Mazik. Kaven de Berushus Nata, he planted the tree Berushus. Now that doesn't make any sense because seemingly the boar came first. Since the boar came first, you planted your tree Be'isr. You planted your tree within 25 amos of the boar. That's Be'isr. So what's right? That was Rashi talking about. So you did it Be'heter. Not the Bereshus, not he planted Bereshus. She'eno mazik ad zaman gadol, because it takes a long time for the mazik to happen. Because when you plant the tree originally, there are no shoots, and it takes a long time for your shoots to grow out for 25 amos. So Rashi is saying that that's really called a not a beheter. And again, we saw that his giri delay that it's miyad. We saw it on the what is it Yud Ches. That the miyad, so since there's no miyad here, there's no giri delay, Rashi calls that beheter. It's a big chiddush. So therefore, lo chayivu chachamim lokotz below damim. That sense, when I did it, even though I know it's going to happen, since it takes a long time for it to happen, you can't remove my tree without paying me. I don't know, big. And then right there, b'shvil hazeket the yachid. Seemingly, if you do it into the rishus rabbim and it damages the rabbim, then you have to remove the tree for free. That seems to be a big chiddush of Rashi, that the mazik gets the money. The mazik who planted the tree, be'isr. Rashi calls it beheter, even because the boar came first, but he calls it beheter because it takes a long time for it to damage. Therefore, when it does finally damage, the mazik, the owner of the tree, gets money for it. Yeah, I mean, you could learn into Rashi that just like your boar is not damaging me, so too my tree's not damaging you. So why do I have to cut it down? So then, when it's actually damaging, so then. You don't have that taina. But right now, you're telling me to cut down my non-damaging tree. So, therefore, it's like I'm not. That's Rashi's heter there. That I did a beheter because it's not damaging you. And it's like you want to force me to cut this tree down. I mean, who knows? Maybe if Mashiach comes before the roots go, did the roots still damage? I mean, I don't know.
It's a little minority report,
Right, yeah, there we go. Weiter, so ima ilan koidem, lo yikutz. So the ilan came first. He doesn't have to cut it. Suffix zeh, lo yikutz. Look at that. You don't have to cut it down if it's suffix. So Rebbi Yosi oimer afal pisha bor kodem le ilan lo yikutz zeh choy from betok shelo v'zeh noite betok shelo. So you can all go into your own. You can all go into your own bit. So Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, halacha. Rebbi Yosi, Amar Rav Ashi, ki having by Rav Kahana, I'm running moidi Rebbi Yosi b'giri delay. So we had that. So halacha Rebbi Yosi, alanizak halacha atzasmo giri delay. Then we saw this. So haka we didn't see this. We saw a different giri delay Rashi. So haka the mati lay hezeka mitoch yadav shel mazik. So again, right, goes mitoch yadav shel mazik. So Tosfos says that it's miyad, not miyad shel mazik. Miyad, it happens immediately. And here Rashi's saying it goes from the hand of the mazik. That's what's called giri delay. So when you shoot an arrow, the arrow leaves your hand. So therefore, when you dig a bore, and then like the or you if you plant a tree, for sure the roots are not coming from your hand. So everyone holds, and that's not coming miyad either. But if you have a bore, so the damage is not coming from your hand. Your hand's not damaging it. So therefore, all those first missionaries are not Rebbi Yosi. So we talk yad v'shamaz. Kahahi damrinim beis va'aliyah hanahu beitrei chadar. So one guy living above and one living below, and then the guy above opened up the ceiling in between the two floors, and every time that he'd wash his hands, then the guy would fall on the guy below the water, because so he's pouring out of his hands mamish to do his natilas yadayim, and therefore that water would fall on the guy's head. Alatachton kurile giri delay. That's called giri delay because it came out of the hand mamish. So he's just pouring water on the guy below him. That's called giri delay. V'ki paski v'hadri nafli v'lo kurile giri delay. So when it stops and then it gets the second koch or whatever, it's not called giri delay. Now we have a story here. Papi Yona Kach Shemo Al Shem Makomo. So Yona is from Yavan or some type of thing. Maybe he's from Greece. I don't know. This is guy Papi. Vashir, and he became rich. He was an Ani and he became rich. Havibana Apanda. He built a house. Havihanach Utsuri be Shevchina. He had these. They were pounding sesame seeds in order. Oitzri shumshim. They were pounding shumshimim, sesame trees, lasot shemen, to make oil. So in his neighborhood, they were pounding to make oil. Diki havi daiki shumshimi havi naida apandia. So when they would pound the sesame, his beautiful palace would shake. Atalakamei de Ravashi. Amrle ki haven't be Rav Kahana Avarim with Rebbi Yosi begiri delay. So when we were by Rav Kahana, he would say they be moida begiri delay, and therefore the shumshimim have to be marchik themselves. So Tosfos ani v'hashir v'ha'esher have Rabusa nakat. So why what do I care? What's the story got to do with whether the guy's poor and rich? I mean, we're talking halacha here. How do we apply Rebbi Yosi's din? And we're telling the whole story of a guy who found a lottery ticket or he won big in Vegas. What's that got to do with our halacha? So you did not have to think about that. He would actually build the panda. Now, Tosfos is going to get into something called samach beheter. Samach beheter. Samach beheter basically means like I went first, and since I went first, so then I'm allowed to be here. It's a little bit different to are you allowed to plant a tree within 25 amos of the other guy's field if there's no bore there? If he doesn't have a bore, can I plant my tree there even though I'm within 25? So see later whatever, but there's no nizak, then how could you be a mazik? It's like the thing, if I'm going to punch in the air and I'm going to go towards you, if you get in the way, but if I'm punching the air, you're not a mazik because there's no nizak. So the chayra, even all these things that you're not allowed to do, as long as there's no nizak there, then what's the problem? So here's a thing called samach beheter. So Tosfos is saying that the shumshimim were samach beheter. They went first. They were doing it, and they had no reason to think that there's going to be an apanda. Now, whatever Papi was living in, that wasn't being mazik by the shumshim, by the sesame bashers. But seemingly building this house, now all of a sudden he's got an ill effect because of the shumshum batters, that it has an effect on his big house, but not his little hut. So even though there was no big palaces in the town, and therefore they were doing, and they were stomach beheter, therefore they should not have to shut down. So Rav Ashi tells them to shut down. So even though they know that crushing the sesame is going to be bad for these houses, since he was an ani and didn't think that now if he was always rich, so one day he's going to build this house, and therefore I know it's going to be in effect. But he's poor, so therefore I don't have to think that he's going to build something. He's not going to have any effect, and still I have to stop the shimshon. If you giri delay. So once it's giri delay, so now you have to be marchik anyway. So therefore, that's the din. Now Tosfos gets into this issue, but they were samach beheter. So even though the samach beheter ain't tzarich laharchik, so even though if you are samach beheter, if you go first and you're there when there's no nizak, you don't have to do any harchaka. Afilu begiri delay, even when it is your giri. So obviously Tosfos is going to ask the question, so why here is this different? Kedetanya, how does he know this is true? Because you say hi refet boker kudemis la'oitzer mutter. So we have a Mishnah saying that you can't have a barn under a storehouse, but if the barn came before the storehouse, it's mutter. And again, Tosfos is learning that's Rebbi Yosi in the Mishnah, therefore it's giri delay, because it happens miyad. V'hu adin chanos shel nachtoimim v'tzavoin, that you can't have, this is all in the Mishnah there, that you can't have a bakery or a dyer shop. Ve'ein chiluk, so that's, you can't do that, but they can go first. Ve'ein chiluk bein dira l'shar l'fiyah maskana. So don't tell me that when you're living somewhere it's different, that this house is different than an oitzer. There's no difference, as the maskana the Mishnah over there says. So we have a terror. So in Rabbeinu Tam dehaka hayinu taima mishom delo keva tashmaishu kol kach ki hanach dela'al. So Rabbeinu Tam says that there's a difference here. Why does the shumshim have to move even though they came first? They were samach beheter, because they're not going all the time. When you're crushing sesame to make oil, it's not like a big business like doing olives or whatever, or bakery. You're baking all the time. It's ba'akrai. You're doing the shimshum every now and then. Since you're doing it every now and then, you're the one who has to move. Hagov o dahaka mishom to be iser samach to chomara de machi merafa la'ara. So see here, you have the hagah. So I'm not sure exactly why. I mean they're changing the text here. Basically, that when they're bashing, every time they're bashing, they shouldn't be, that they're weakening everything anyway, so they shouldn't be doing it. But this is the hagah. But the ikr here is that the law kavia tishmaishu, that they didn't keva their shimush. So here's the hagah sasher. We go into the rosh. So I forgot the hanachatzuri beheter samchu. This is kind of what Tosfos is saying. The hahi shaisa, the panda wasn't there. We said above refabakar kudemes, it's mutter, even though it's giri delay. Hachi time the law keva tashmish. So lo keva tashmish just means that it's not a fixed tashmish, it's a sometimes tashmish. V'leika toreach besiloko. It's not such a big tircha to stop doing it. So again, if you're a baker, it's like a side item on the menu. You know, if you have your burgers and chips you need in your McDonald's, but the I don't know, some sauce they have, you don't necessarily need to do that. So the likatoterich was called kach because they don't do it all the time. Either do it somewhere else, or don't do it. Or the issue of the haka have a kamo bor the chomara mara the kamicha kamarasis laara. So again, that's like in the hagal, that they're like a door, because every time that they're hitting, that they're weakening the so that's it wasn't a sonic beheter. But this is the idea here, that this the likat toireach besiluko, that they're able to remove themselves, since they don't have a teres keva. So therefore they're able to move elsewhere, whereas people who don't have a keva, then they can't move elsewhere. So Gemara continues with Kama, how much do you have to distance? It's the rattling of the lid. A puma dachavtza. So kanaida is the rattling of the lid on a jug. Rashi she'em yanu akad al choyma v'kisua. So you put the jug on the wall. I don't know, on the top of the wall, hanging on the wall, and you cover it. It will move the kisoi because of the rada, because of the shaking. So Taisus al Persha conscious kashalari. How could the panda move so much until that you're moving the lid? So you're putting a clay on top of the building, and the building has to move so much that the lid is also moving. Like the whole thing's going to fall. The MK and buys karov lipol is going to fall down. Via Indian mashma shehi binyan chazak. And it seems from the story it's a proper binyan. Sheharei mitoch ha oisher bani, took it from richness. Mesechut Shabbos also say what's in a panda? A piska din shemasif sim lan sham ledin. It's an opening for din where people go there for din. Mashma de bira gedoilehi. So it's like a place for a base din. So a lot of people go there. So it seems like it's quite large. Venira lari de kad naida nachta kasha adam oiches hakad biado. So according to the Ri, it's where somebody is walking with the lid or holding the lid is still going to move a little bit. Shezed davar muat harba. It's a tiny amount. And kem nishanitav ha panda chayiv laharkik. So however much that lid will move when you're holding, if you just hold a jug with a lid, the lid is going to move a little bit unless it's a perfect lid and it fits perfectly. But a normal lid, whatever he's talking about, it moves like a little bit because it's not perfectly on there. So you hold it, it just kind of moves a bit. That amount of movement is if the panda moves, then you're chayav to harchik. For the ritzba nira she'ein perisha contras daichek. So the ritzba says the Rashi is not so bad. The bedavar muat misnaded ha nichtama, because with a small amount it will move the lid because it's a stavar kal, it's light. Va'afol pi she'apanda eino misnaded kolkak. Even though, so that the lid will move even if the panda itself isn't moving. According to Tosfos, the movement of the panda is greater than the movement of the lid. He was saying no, the lid will move even if will move a lot, even if the panda doesn't really move.